watching the Jennylyn Show, and I'm Jennylyn Gleave, your host. And tonight, my guest is a fine gentleman for many reasons. We're about to discover it together. Mr. Edward Oates, the co-founder of Oracle. And I'm sure you're all familiar with Oracle. Ed, thank you so much for taking the time to come on my show.
Thank you for inviting me to your show. I really appreciate being here.
Oh, trust me, I am very thrilled that you're here. So, where do we begin? Should we talk a little bit about your life with Oracle? And then you tell us what you're doing now.
Sure. We started Oracle in 1977. There were three of us, Larry Ellison, who you've probably all heard of, Bob Miner, who has passed away sadly in 1995.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then myself. And we started, and we had another employee named Bruce Scott, who was our first employee, who went on to do other startups. He's quite successful in his own right, in his own independent startups. But we started Oracle primarily as a consulting outfit. We were going to do contract software at the time. And pretty much software companies did not exist in '77. There were a few here and there, but they were not a known entity. So it was a whole new kind of venture. We decided shortly after we started up that rather than consulting, we should build products.
Right.
And we decided we knew about database because that was my experience, that was Bob Miner's experience, that was Larry's experience because he worked for Omdahl before we started the company. And so we knew about database. We all knew about relational databases because that was kind of the cutting edge of technology out of IBM, out of Hewlett-Packard. And so we studied enough to decide to build our own relational database and started programming. And we sold our first database about 2.5 years later. So
wow.
We started with no venture capital. It was all our own funds to start the company. And a software contract, additional software contract. So we were funded by our software contract and, mortgages on our houses, basically. And that's how we started the company.
I would imagine.
And that's why it's pretty much still owned mostly by Larry, but it's kind of a homegrown business without a lot of venture capital. So we kind of had to find our own way, and we did. Seemed to work out. So.
How long did you work with them?
I worked from '77 till '96 when I retired. I decided that I like to work for small companies, and Oracle is no longer a small company. I had told Larry pretty early on that if we ever get to 10,000 people, I'm out of here. And I couldn't quit fast enough. Like when there were 20,000 people when I left, there's 130, 140,000 people employed at Oracle now. So.
Really?
Yeah.
That many?
Yeah, worldwide. Because it's a worldwide corporation. There's people everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's another Oracle office. Oracle Arena, up in Oakland. So.
But you must be so proud every time
It's interesting to look at a company that you started with three people and 900 square feet in Sunnyvale, which is where we were, right across from where Memorex used to be.
Really, you guys started in Sunnyvale?
Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, that general area, because the borders are funny in that.
Right.
But we were right across the street. Central Expressway from where Memorex used to be. And so it's, 900 square feet, a little rented spot, and now kind of Oracle's everywhere. But it's interesting to look at a company if you're starting, because you knew it when it was a baby. And now it's this, intergalactic, titanic thing that you never envisioned when you started. Who knew that Oracle would be what it is today when three of us were programming in our little rented desks?
What do you think you can credit the success to, apart from your geniuses and your hard work?
Probably less genius, more hard work. I'll credit hard work.
Okay.
But, if you'd like, I'll let other people credit me with genius.
Okay.
And Larry and Bob. But I think we made some early on really good strategic decisions, not only about how to run the company,
right,
and why, from a business philosophy, corporate culture philosophy, why we were in business, but also from technical decisions. So one of the reasons we started the company is we observed in our prior employers that the people who were the best at doing their jobs were not necessarily the people who were rewarded the best, either with prestige or with money or Rolex watches, whatever it happened to be. It seemed to be that longevity and who you knew were far more important than being a technical wizard or the best salesperson or the best marketing person. And we wanted to start a company that was more of a meritocracy. So if you were good at what you did, you didn't necessarily have to go from being a programmer to being a chief salesman or a vice president to be rewarded financially and with prestige. And that's how we started the company. And so that philosophy exists today. You know, Oracle still strives and always strives to hire the very best people it can. If you get there and it turns out you're not the very best people, you will do better elsewhere. And,
you get a little, oh.
Well, you know, it's, you know, people sometimes they're critical of Oracle and other companies that are have very high standards for their employees and their performance and whatnot. That they just kick them out the door. It's, in my view, from a philosophical point of view, it's unfair to the company and it's unfair to an employee to have someone in a position that they can't perform well in, for whatever reason. It might be personality, it might be their skills, it might be bad fit, and it's better to let that person succeed, but maybe somewhere else. And that's and sometimes that feels
harsh. I
harsh.
like how you phrased that.
Yeah. But you know, and we've had employees who've left Oracle or been asked to leave and are very successful elsewhere. Because a different organization doesn't mean that they weren't smart. It doesn't mean they weren't hard workers.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't a good fit.
And I agree with you because I think it only takes one weak link in the chain to cause the whole chain to sometimes come apart.
Yeah, absolutely true. And I think that most people are pretty good at self-evaluation. They know if they're not doing well in an organization. And if you know you're not doing well, then you're not going to be happy.
Right.
Even if the paycheck's good and the hours are good and whatever, the perks are good, if you're not doing well, you know you're not doing well, and you're not going to be a very happy employee. And you should be happy somewhere. You should be satisfied with your job situation, with your situation in life. So,
Completely agree with you because you spend the majority of your waking hours in your job.
Yeah.
So if your job is a place where you're miserable,
yeah.
you need to get out.
So,
I know, trust me.
So that was the business philosophy. From a technical side, we all knew databases a little bit because when I worked at Memorex before Oracle, that's what we did. We were doing database research and looking at different kinds of relational databases and how to implement them hardware because Memorex was a hardware company. When we started Oracle and we decided we were going to build our own product. I mean, our first consulting was building database and device drivers and all the kinds of things that software consultants do. We decided we were going to build a product, it's going to be a database because that was the thing we knew.
Right.
And we had all read the papers out of IBM. They had a IBM Journal of Research comes out of IBM down in San Jose, and they had a research project called System R. R stood for relational, and they wrote a lot of papers on it. And we read the papers. We understood what that project was, and we said, you know, especially in those days, IBM was the big kid on the block. You know, no one ever got fired from buying IBM, and it's probably still true this day.
Right.
So we said we should build System R, and we should build it instead of being on IBM hardware. We should build it on mini computers, which were just kind of coming into their own.
Right.
So instead of trying to take over the data center, we want to take over departmental computing. For a variety of reasons. One, we knew about mini computers. There's no competition. There was no commercial software in mini computers. So PDP-11s and VAX 11s, which we programmed on from the now defunct Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC. There was no competition for commercial software. Those were kind of scientific machines or engineering machines or process control machines. We can turn these into regular commercial processors.
Right.
And so we said, we'll build on that machine. We got permission from IBM to use the language, SQL, which is the language of choice. That's the language that's used for databases now, universally. So we did that and we said, well, okay, so we've got the right model. We're going to kind of a pre-sold model from IBM, which was a good thing to do because we didn't have to kind of do a lot of marketing because none of us were marketers. We were all computer programmers. Larry's a computer programmer.
Really?
He's a software engineer, computer programmer. So was Bob, so am I. We didn't have anybody, no sales, no marketing, no business expertise in the early days.
But you had a product that was in demand.
Well, it wasn't in demand yet. IBM had started to create a demand, and HP had a project called Alpha, which is a similar kind of a thing. So then there's a lot of literature being written about relational databases and how they could transform the way in which people handle data. So that's what we did. So we did that, and we said, you know, not only that, but we want to make this software run on more than one type of machine. Almost every software at the time, it ran on IBM mainframes, ran on control data equipment, but the same program wouldn't run in two places. And we said, we have to write this in such a way that we can run on any machine that you pick as a customer. So
Right.
if you're, especially with mini computers coming out, there was, Digital Equipment Corporation, there was Data General, there was HP, there was Prime, there was Sequent, there all these different companies building mini computers, all look different. Their hardware instruction sets were different, their operating systems were different, everything's different about them. So we
Right.
said, how do we structure our software so we can rewrite a little piece of it, which is the thing that connects, the Oracle database processing from the hardware. So we put a layer in there that does the translation. So we structured it in a way that we could be compatible with anything.
That was really brilliant.
It was a good move,
Yes.
especially in the early days when there were just
Right.
everybody that you can think of was building computers.
Right.
My early career was with a company called Singer. They make sewing machines.
I had a Singer sewing machine.
But they also made computers. They owned Link division, so they did all of Link. They did Apollo Mission Simulator. They own LibreScope, which has all of the fancy simulation software that runs inside of all the secret labs. They own Raytheon. So a lot of these companies owned by Singer at the time. So everybody built computers in the day. So you needed to be pretty agnostic, as we thought, as a software company. As a customer, you'd pick your favorite computer.
Right.
You offered the best deal, whatever it was. So you'd buy, an IBM, or you'd buy something from Digital Equipment, or you'd buy something from Prime. And we wanted to be able to run everywhere. And the last piece of the puzzle was we knew that if you had two computers and they both had databases, maybe they should be able to talk to one another.
Right.
They should be able to exchange data. So we wanted to be able to have oracles communicate with one another, communication. But that also had to be agnostic. You couldn't say, well, it's only going to use TCP/IP, or it's only going to use NetBIOS, or it's only going to use VM3270. They were all viable communication protocols. So we, again, built another layer to isolate what you as a programmer or user saw when you said talk to that computer, and how we actually talk to the computer. So we wound up with software that ran anywhere, could talk to anything, completely compatible, and was as fast as anything else. So we didn't compromise performance. So those are the core secrets to Oracle's success from a technology standpoint.
Amazing. You guys are very smart business people as well as technical people.
Well, we got smarter business-wise. One of the things we did, after we'd been in business for about 3 or 4 years is we need more business acumen. We need better contacts. If we're going to sell these products, we have to have people who understand sales. So we hired a sales and marketing person.
How long after you started?
Maybe 3 years, 3.5 years. So we hired a sales and marketing VP who understood, a guy named Bob Prager, good friend, who understood sales in that part of the business. So we hired some expertise inside. But we said, we need more business acumen. So we said, we'll sell a little piece of the company to some venture capitalists, because that business was just starting up. So a man named Don Lucas, and not the car dealership, but Don Lucas, the venture capitalist at 3000 Sand Hill Road, because that's where our offices were at the time. We got to talking to him, and he persuaded us, and we persuaded him to let him buy some of the company, a small amount, and he would be our mentor to teach us about how to run business. He taught Larry a lot about how you run a business, how you organize a business, how you reach out internationally, because we reached out internationally by initially just contracting with companies in Norway and in Japan to do sales for us, and then eventually we formed our own divisions, internationally. But we contracted the sales out initially because that's a big expense. So that's how we got business acumen. Larry's really smart. Probably the smartest Silicon Valley guy that I know.
Is Larry?
Is Larry. Other people have other reputations, probably with different opinions, but probably the smartest Silicon Valley guy, both technology and his ability to really adapt to a rapidly changing landscape, is Larry.
Well, that's really fascinating. And listen, you know him very intimately, so if you say that, we believe you.
I hope you believe me.
Hi, Larry.
Hi, Larry. Hello.
You're brilliant.
He is, and he's still brilliant. And one of the wealthiest guys in the world, which is terrific. Which is nice. Congratulations to him, and it's terrific. I don't begrudge anybody's success, so that's good.
Oh, yeah.
So he's still running a good piece of the company. And
are you guys still very close friends?
We see each other once in a while. It's when I left Oracle. We have kind of different spheres of where we go.
Yes.
We do different things. So
I think you guys have done a phenomenal job. So congratulations to you all. So what is Ed Oates doing now? Well,
when I left Oracle, I had an interest in audio and technology. So actually, one of the early things I did was to purchase the Audible Difference. This is a high-end audio place, so very high end. They sold, we sold Larry his system, we sold Steve Jobs his system. These are, $100,000 plus systems, so big speakers and video and all these kinds of things. So I was very interested in that, and I partnered up with somebody who knew about that business. And that was really interesting, and I sold that in 2000, just before everything crashed, so it was a good time to sell it. But I'm passionate about science education. One of my passions is science education.
Oh, okay.
So I got on the board at the San Francisco Zoo, because I think zoos and things like zoos and Cal Academy and places like Monterey Aquarium are great places for kids to learn about science in kind of a painless way. They're having a good time, and they're learning things.
Yes, because they love to go there anyway.
So they like to go there anyway. So I did that with the San Francisco Zoo on the conservation education side, the development side, and I'm still on the board at the San Francisco Zoo. So I'm a vice chair of the board now. So run development, which is fundraising. From the board perspective, they have employees who do that stuff. And then in 2000, my father passed away. So I endowed a scholarship at San Jose State, which is my alma mater. So we moved to this area of California in 1959 and went to San Jose State. So I endowed a scholarship in his name for the College of Science.
Were you born in 1959?
No, I was born in 1946. I'm old. Come on. So I may look young in this pretty face. Don't get fooled.
All right.
So I endowed a scholarship in his name at San Jose State. It began to reconnect with San Jose State, which is my alma mater. I graduated in mathematics in 1968 from San Jose State. So I endowed that scholarship and started to get reconnected with San Jose State, and decided that's a really interesting institution because, you have the Stanfords and the Harvards of the world, and they're pretty elite schools. But if our push as a society is to get everybody to have a college education, or at least those who want it, the place that's going to do that is not Stanford. It's going to be San Jose State and Chico and East Bay, because those are, they have really bright students there, and they have pretty ordinary people there. They really do a good job of serving underserved communities, and especially kids who are the first members of their family to ever go to school, ever go beyond high school.
Right.
And that's kind of what their specialty. They do a great job of that. So I'm still on the board there as a board chair for a couple of years at the Tower Foundation, which is their fundraising arm. And
very impressive.
So I do those things. But
I'm passionate about empowering young people, so I'm very.
It's both those are the zoo pretty much for younger people, and the and San Jose State for college kids and high school kids as well, because part of what San Jose State does is train teachers.
Right.
So we're trying to really improve teaching, especially in math and science, so that we can get a generation who knows what they're doing in that area. So it's really, I think it's very important. It's the most important thing we can do is the next generation. It's the biggest job. Everything else really doesn't matter if the next generation is not served well by this generation.
And I'm very impressed with a lot of what you represent, what you've done, what you're doing, especially because there's so many people who are only concerned about them and theirs. And once them and theirs are doing okay, they don't really care so much about putting this much energy into helping and empowering others.
Well, I'm glad I have the time and resources to do it. Not everyone has the time and resources to do it. Some people, if they're just getting by, I don't expect them to go to sacrifice their family's financial or health or anything else to do this. But I have the time and energy to do it, so I'm doing it. So, but you ask what else I'm doing. My other passion is music, and crazy rock and roll music, basically.
Yes, and you're coming on my show with your band.
I have a band, yeah.
Yes.
But I started playing music, as it's still a hobby. I'm not a professional musician. Don't get the wrong idea here. I'm okay, but.
You sure? Didn't I see you on the band with Mick Jagger?
No,
was
never.
it you?
No, not that. That was Keith.
Oh, that was Keith. Okay.
That was Keith, yeah. But and so the guys that I played in the band with back in college at San Jose State, we're still playing together now. And our band name is Shocked, which is our initials.
What's it?
Shocked. CHOC''D, and it's our initials. Chapel, Halala, Oates, Chapel, and Doug. And Doug is the only guy we didn't go to college with. And he's new to the band. He's only been with us for like 20 years. So he's just the new kid. So
20 years and he's new. You guys been playing for a long time.
Well, it's like Ron Wood and the Rolling Stones, right? Yes. But we play, we play classic rock, and we do some of our own compositions. We recorded a CD in 2011. It was on iTunes for a while, and we did a single in 2014, which I think is still on iTunes, called L.A. Trip, in case you
LA Trip is the name of it.
LA Trip.
Go to iTunes and buy
I
it.
like to think about it. You know, or it's probably on Spotify as well. You can listen to it for free. You don't have to buy it. But I don't expect anyone to buy this stuff. But we have a good time doing it. And
Yes.
And I've met a lot of people in the music industry through a company that I'm associated with called Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, and that's basically a consumer-facing organization which puts civilians like me together with rock stars, and you form bands, and you play at the Whiskey Go-Go and places like that. And I've really found it's a really interesting place because with my band at home, we play the same songs. We add a few songs, but you go to a Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, and if the guest star is somebody from Metallica,
Yes.
you're playing metal. Well, I don't play metal at home, but I learned to play metal. If the guest is Nancy Hart, you're going to learn a bunch of Hart songs.
Right.
So you learn a bunch of Hart songs because Nancy Wilson's going to sing them with you. So that's what we do in the fantasy camp. And the latest thing is we decided that there's a reasonable team building activity combining music and business, and you can do team building around that.
That is such a brilliant concept.
Yeah. So I mean, some other people do it, but one of the things that, because we're going to call it Rock Your Business, it's not quite up and running yet, but the thought is that with Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp has access to all these rock stars. So if we wind up Rock and Roll Fantasy, you could be playing with Nancy Wilson, you could be playing with Vinny Appice, who played drums with Ronnie James Dio and with the Black Sabbath. People at that level, and those people are just regular human beings. At the end of the day, they may have been mega rock stars, and they still play to millions of people.
Right.
But they're really just regular human beings, and so we can train them to be mentors to team building activities. So it's team building, entertainment, and whatnot for corporate America, basically for conventions and things like that.
So you actually go to these companies and you combine their technologies and what they're learning and what they're selling with music.
Yeah, the goal is there's a lot of talk about high-performance teams.
Right.
If you read all the literature, everything's about high-performance
Yes.
teams, and especially as companies do mergers and acquisitions, you combine teams, they're growing. How do you get these people integrated, communicating, trusting one another? And so there's lots of things. You can do sports camps, you can do ropes courses, and we felt that, music is another good way of doing it, because music, the barrier to entry, the people who can't participate is zero, because we don't require that people who are doing a team building play an instrument. All they have to do is be able to rewrite lyrics and stand on stage and sing a little bit with a big group of people. So that's kind of the activity, but they learn to do something together. They learn to build a product. The product is the song they're going to sing, the choreography behind the song, all these things that go together. So I think it's an interesting team building approach, but also it's corporate entertainment. So if you're at a sales convention, so you do this team building activity, and it can culminate with a rock star performance with Nancy Wilson singing with an all-star band.
That is so awesome.
So we've done a few, and they're really well received. The people who do them say this is the best thing ever, and they have a great time. But actually, it's kind of like kids going to the zoo. They actually learn about science. Kids, the adults doing the team building, to actually accidentally learn about team building and how to cooperate, how to trust one another, especially if you have teams that cross boundaries. So you have the salespeople together with the engineers, the customer support people together with, the executives, things like that. So it's an interesting.
It's a very interesting
approach. And we're just getting started, so that'll be called Rock Your Business when we really get rolling in a month or two.
And I think that's so great for many, many reasons. One of them is when you go to these seminars, you just sit there and listen to people, listen. After a while, you just get tired of listening, and this can kind of change the pace.
Yeah. Well, think about it when, if kids in college, if they sit in a lecture for an hour and a half lecture with the history professor, after about 10 minutes, there's a lot of snoring going on, because you can only listen to, unless there's a really dynamic speaker up there. So part of the notion is experiential learning. You're experiencing something, and you just learn, and you learn while you're having fun.
Exactly.
Like I said, kids at the zoo, they learn about all kinds of things, and they're not thinking of that, they're learning about things, and they are. So
I think that is so great. How are you promoting it?
We're just getting started. It'll be all online promotion. Ads in magazines, in my view, don't reach the right audience. It's not, so it's going to be through social media, through Google Web Ads, all the usual places you'd expect to have an online promotion presence, and then word of mouth, because the consumer-facing camps, the people who do those are often executives in companies, so we wind up with a lot of leads with those folks as well. So
the music you play when you go, is it somehow related to the subject matter?
Well, for example, if you're at a sales convention with a bunch of accountants, and you say, well, let's have them rewrite the lyrics to a song. Maybe they should rewrite to "Taking Care of Business." So they'll take the song and they'll rewrite the lyrics to meet, to be whatever the theme of the conference is,
right?
Their corporate objectives and goals. To make fun of the competition, that's happened too. But to rewrite the lyrics to the song, figure out how to perform it, how to choreograph. So they're creating a product, the creative energy, and there's the rock star mentor is in there with them, helping them do this because they've written songs, they've played stuff forever, they know every song on the planet. So they can pick any song they want.
Can you believe it? We're down to 2 minutes.
We're down to 2 minutes.
I always like to ask this question before we wrap. Yeah. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to share?
Well, you asked me. You didn't ask. You weren't going to ask me about my rock band, but you did anyways. So that's my big passion. You didn't ask me about my family. I have 2 kids from my first marriage, and they're both in the area. My son works for Oculus Facebook. He'll start Monday, just started there.
Oh, congratulations.
And my daughter is a reformed attorney. That means she's a mom now, stays at home. But she's a great lady. And my daughter is University of Delaware doing a PhD in chemical engineering for biopharmaceuticals, which looks like where her career will be.
Well, you are the definition of success.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And I know, as always, I think we're all aware, you have to do the work if you want to get the results.
Work is important.
Right. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and share all of your successes and your dreams and your future plans with us. And we have to schedule a time for you to bring that rock and roll band on the Jennylyn Show.
We'll figure out how to get it here. We'll probably do it acoustically, though, but amps will be a little loud for this environment. But thank you so much for inviting me.
Anytime. Thank you so much for watching the Jennylyn Show. You've heard a bit of Oracle history here tonight, if you weren't already familiar. And you should check in with Mr. Oates about his new band that he can bring to your conventions. And again, thank you for watching the Jennylyn Show, and I will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We didn't get to mention your website address, but I can...